people that are going through these kind of episodes and don't know how to handle them and are seeking medical aid for something that, medicine just isn't going to help.
Thank you.
Well, you're quite welcome. What about, have a couple emails here, Clif High, about the Federal Reserve. What does linguistics say about, there's so much being talked about now about the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, we won't care about them as a country in November of 2010.
A country?
As the U.S. or the planet, we won't care about the Federal Reserve or the Federal Reserve banks from November of 2010 onward.
2010, so a year from now.
Yeah, over the course of this next year, the dollar dies, and that's their only product.
And
why should we care about them if no one's using their product?
Mm-hmm. And when you say the dollar dies, give us an idea. How does that look to those of us who use dollars? What?
Well, first it's going to hit us with hyperinflation, and then deflation. The hyperinflation will come as all of the dollars come home to roost in the digital format. We'll try and absorb them for a while. But we're going to go to something where, you'll wake up in the morning and your cup of coffee, if you went to Starbucks, would be $8. And you go to work, and then you go to Starbucks on your way home, and that same cup of coffee is now $9.50. And you wake up the next morning, and it's $10.50, and so on. And the hyperinflation will go on for a short period of time, perhaps months, I don't know how long. And then we're going to get into deflation because the dollar will be so rejected, most of the digital forms of it will have disappeared, all the derivatives will have just been written off, and what we'll be left with will be all the printed dollars, which will be of some value within the United States, but mostly not accepted anywhere else. And here in the United States, only accepted in forms where you just can't get silver to trade or something like that. So. And
what will the powers that be doing now? Will they just have moved to Uruguay or wherever they're going to go?
Actually, by that period of time, those the powers that be are going to be mostly insulated from this. These are the people that are at the upper echelons of the shadow government. Okay, at some point in the process of the revolution, as we cross into November of 2010, from that point on, most of the powers that be are running for their lives.
Uruguay, right? That's what I hear.
No, it won't help. It doesn't matter. I mean, we're gonna chase them down. This is going to be planetary. It's going to be. Unfortunately, it looks to be as bloody and as horrid as anything in the Bolshevik Revolution.
Really?
And like the Bolsheviks, we will decide that we cannot allow the powers that be and their children to survive because they represent a danger to the coming generations.
Well, what do you make of? I don't know. I just have some friends and myself that I look out in 2009, Clif High, and ladies and gentlemen, and the whole thing looks so surreal to me that on a deep level, I have no worries about it whatsoever. And I'm wondering if you can pinpoint what that kind of idea is, or is there a lot of that going around?
Well, there actually is to a certain extent. We see a fair amount of people that are just sanguine about it. Nothing we can do about it except live through it. And, try and guard ourselves as we go through this stuff. And that really the universe we know is an ordered, structured place. And so I don't personally have any fear about any of this stuff that's coming because it's going to work out as it should.
I mean, what are you going to do?
Exactly. I didn't create any of it, so I'm not taking any personal responsibility for it. I don't have to stay around and clean up the mess afterwards. So it's like, okay. And it's going to work out as it's supposed to. What's interesting for us is the way in which the linguistics suggests things working out is actually beneficial to humans in a long-term sense that I don't think we've had this potential for freedom for a long period of time, maybe 500 years or more, because this small 1 or 2% is intent on dominating us all, and they'll be gone. And that's going to be good and bad. We're going to go through a period of disruption as we all try and decide what does the future mean when we're all sovereign individuals and there is no hierarchical authority that we have to deal with. It's a big paradigm shift.
It's interesting, though, when you said something like, I didn't create any of this. Do you suppose, though, can it be argued that all of us souls that are conscious today in 2009, on some level, that we had to have created all of this because we do create our reality?
No, I don't subscribe to that theory because I look at it from a different viewpoint that is ancient in the form of the science of yoga and Taoism. And in that concept, there's various levels of consciousness. There's universal consciousness that provides the ability of planets to create and rocks and trees and all of that. And then we can come all the way down to the personal level of consciousness, right? And that's where you and I exist. And yes, you can argue that we create our certain things within our own personal level of consciousness and maybe one or two layers up. But for the vast majority of humans, we're not out there putting any energy into creating the local rocks or the asphalt under our feet or so on. And that's where a lot of these cycles and so forth are exhibiting. And so at that level, no. You and I are not creating the revolutionary meme. And to a certain extent, the powers that be are not creating it. It would hit us at this planet at this time, whether we were 10 or 6.5 billion Zen monks sitting around meditating, or whether we are as are now. That same revolutionary set of energies would come out from the center of the galaxy and would be hitting us. The issue is how we respond to it is based on where we are at this particular point. And so since we're still kind of trapped in all of the violence and negativity and so forth, I suspect a lot of response will go that way. But if we were all sitting around as meditating monks looking at the universe in a different perspective, maybe that revolutionary wave would allow us to create something entirely new.
This is, yeah. This is from Howard in Morro Bay, California. I would like to ask Clif about what he calls immediacy values. If immediacy values tend to be the strongest or more accurate, then why doesn't he do another run associated with such an important date like the upcoming October 25th event?
Well, that's a good question. Basically, it's just the huge amount of work involved. Immediacy values are, we slice and dice our language into release language and building tension language. But then both of those types have categories of immediacy values, shorter term and longer term. And we get more data, more detail in the immediacy values, probably because most people are psychic, they don't know it, but their range doesn't extend out that far, and so they're psychically leaking out impressions that really only go out maybe 3 weeks. Okay, and that's basically why we end up, in our theory anyway, is why we end up with more immediacy values. The problem, of course, is that those immediacy values are effective from 3 days out to 3 weeks, and it takes us about 18 days to process the stuff. So we're always chasing time, so to speak, and a lot of what we've seen in the immediacy data has already occurred. So there's, like I say, there's a very little point in having a forecast for something that's already happened.
Very interesting. Somebody wants to know what you see in the stock market. There are investors here over the next few weeks are talking about what is a linguistic show for stock market here in October. We've kind of backed off on the market issue simply because the stock market itself is so manipulated. Any projection we can give is not necessarily meaningful. Wouldn't surprise me, for instance, by the way, to see the Dow go to 20,000 in January or February of next year. But that 20,000 is going to be these new hyperinflated dollars. And it might at that point be equal to maybe 1 ounce of gold for all I know. But under those circumstances, who cares about stocks? I don't own any paper debt. It's not anything that I'm personally involved with. Most of the people I know don't own stocks or bonds. They've gotten out of the idea of paper debt, and it seems very wise not to have any of that stuff. Yeah, I think the Dow now, you can buy it for 8 ounces of gold. About a year ago was 40 ounces, so I guess that's a very interesting marker. Say, well, how many ounces of gold will it take to buy the Dow in 6 months?
Right, and in the previous depression, we actually had that swing where you would get the Dow and get change back from your ounce of gold.
From an ounce of gold. All right, we're going to take one more, then let you go. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Aloha, Patrick and Cliff. This is Tom in Northern California.
Hey, Tom, good to have you.
And I wanted to thank both of you for instilling in us fearlessness with each act through mindfulness.
Yeah. Good for you.
You guys have really helped so many of us, and just want to say mahalo for that. The question, Cliff, is you've mentioned the powers that be, the boys, trying to instill this perception that there's a 15% group that's superior to everybody else, to divide and conquer, so to speak. But I'm also seeing that there's an approaching group of people to that 15% category that are becoming more conscious as time goes on and we learn things. And I'm curious where those two 15% groups come in your mind.
The powers that be are afraid of that 15% group awakening as in the sense of the crossing the chasm, the Moore's Law, where you have the visionaries, early adopters, and then there's this chasm, and then the beginning of the mainstream. And the powers that be see this 15% as going past the visionaries and being into the early adopters. And they're afraid that there would be enough momentum to cross that chasm and involve the mass of humanity. And so they actually believe that is the case. I think that indeed that group of awake and aware individuals is increasing. and it represents a huge problem for the powers that be. And their use of the 15% meme at this stage is an attempt to corral what they see as a threat arising from that group, and they wish to do the same things to them that they did to the anti-war movement in the 60s by suborning the theme on the outside and then mucking things about from the inside. I don't know that it'll be successful, though. It doesn't appear to be. In our linguistics, it seems that that'll fall flat sometime around March or April.
Now, you've intimated, and so has George, that the powers that be obviously follow what you're doing and Igor's doing very closely, and they maybe have made attempts to disrupt that or use that to their advantage. What do you see in the future following that?
We don't see ourselves continuing much into 2010. It's difficult for me to talk about that because I don't want to give them any ideas. I don't know how closely they follow my stuff. Poor old Igor here, he's a paranoid fellow, chews his mustache off at the bare mention of them coming towards us with their nets. But we suspect that there are certain things within our model of model space in which we model ourselves that seems to think that we'll peak out here sometime this year, and that our efforts now in 2009 are critical to fulfilling that particular goal, if you will, or our destiny in that regard. Thereafter, it doesn't particularly matter. Events will be on their own and rolling along, and probably no one will have time for reading our stuff, even if we were able to produce it.
Well, Igor is right about the paranoia because remember the 7 Ps. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
Yes, indeed, and helps you prepare your pies.
There you go. But to both of you guys, we love you very much, and your hard work is greatly appreciated, and we're sending you all the energy we can for the good of the order.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Mahalo.
Tom. Bye-bye. 10 after the hour. Thanks for all your time. A final email, and then we'll wrap. Some are suggesting we are transitioning from the world of belief to a world of knowing. Can we say anything more specific to describe how we are moving from the old paradigm to the new one? Wayne from Missouri. That's a nice way to close.
It's a very nice way. We're in that period of transformation. We saw 2009 as being the lead-in to transformation. The flowering begins in 2013, and the beautiful aroma of that flowering really comes out in 2017 and beyond.
Boy, I like that. So all we do is have to batten the hatches, take care of ourselves and our family, and figure out how to protect ourselves through all of this. And we could be in for some really cool, more fun things in the years to come.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Make it through to 2013, and you got a real opportunity to see some stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And a couple other emails, just quick thing, about 2 or 3 of them, and I know you always get this question, but I have to ask it. It's mandatory. Where is the safest place to live? There was about 3 of those emails while you were on the air.
Not in this solar system. If you're here, you're in for the ride, you know.
That's right. If you can hear this, you know.
Yeah, you're not in a safe spot.
You're not in a
Don't worry
safe
about
spot.
it.
That's great. God love you. All right, Clif, your website is Half Past Human, and folks can get a complete 50-page report for about $10 by going on that website, right?
That's correct, yep.
And then also they can check out our friend George Ewer. He's on, urbansurvival.com.
And he has a daily column that is worth to read every single day.
It's just a trip. We all enjoy reading George every morning.
I think of him as the Will Rogers of our time.
Yeah, he really is great fun. Well, Cliff, it's an honor to have you on. Thanks for telling all your people that you were going to be on the show. A lot of them were listening today. And it's an honor to have you. Let us know if we can help with anything.
Sure will.
All right,
and we'll come back and chat later.
I hope so. Thank you, Cliff.